The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of the staff or management of Worldwide Digital Broadcasting Corporation.
Welcome to your Health and Wellness Hour, sponsored by Luminosity Wellness Center here in Las Vegas. Coming to you from the studios of Worldwide Digital Broadcasting. Our goal is to incite and ignite all your senses and curiosities. So sit back, relax, open your mind and your heart, and enjoy the show.
Hello and welcome to the Health and Wellness Hour. My name is Abra McGrath Alcazar. I just added that one on there. Welcome. We are coming to you today from North Las Vegas here at Luminosity Wellness Center. And today we have a very special guest, as we always do. But today is Tyler Perkins. Tyler Perkins is the creator of Emotional
Communication Coaching, EC2.
EC2, very good. All right, EC2. So Tyler is here today to let us know about that creation and how it came about and what awakenings he's gone through in his life to bring it to this point and what he sees in the future. Here at the Health and Wellness Hour, we try to give people an idea about daily practices, just a little reminder about taking care of yourself, stopping and just breathing and doing little things throughout your day, simple things, to implement a higher quality of life. So Tyler, if you want to take it away and tell us about EC2.
Well, talking about breathing, I'll breathe myself a little bit, get a little more comfortable. It's funny, this is actually the first public forum that I've taken to introduce EC2. So Abra, I have to thank you and Luminosity for bringing me out. Kind of bringing me out of my own shell, if you will. When you work on something for years, something that you created through your own adversity in life, and start working with others and showing them what it is and how it can improve their lives and seeing the effects of it, you get very excited. And you also get a little nervous, or I guess fearful, of really putting it out in the public to be critiqued in any way, or have it looked at in the wrong way, because I only see the positive of what it is that I created, which is EC2. And after I created it, it kind of became its own, and it's been an amazing experience. So again, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. It's been a pleasure exploring this creation, and being part of that process is really kind of special. So thanks for coming.
Absolutely. And it's so funny. Every time I work with anyone new and introduce it to them, as you and I had the opportunity to talk a little bit about it earlier, I learn from what your input is, and it's
another little building block.
It's amazing.
To that.
Yeah.
And that's everything that we're trying to do here is, we're not trying to necessarily just fix someone. You're not going to have that instant gratification we just talked about too. We're not just taking one pill and it's all gone or donezo. This is an art. This is an art of well-being, and blending some science in there and some metaphysics and some other things that are beneficial.
Absolutely.
Getting the holistic approach. I try to shy away from alternative health because I kind of get hung up. I'm like, no, it's not alternative.
Right.
Not anymore.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And just being able to stay away from modern pharma, if you will, or medicine, that
being caught in the chain of sickness.
Yeah, absolutely. And EC2 was something that I created through knowing that the bottom line was I was just unhappy with where I was, who I was, and I was just loaded with really self-hate, which is hard to even say now, but it's where I was at. And
we got to start from where we're at. Just like when you start working with people, you see them where they are.
With all adversity, I think, comes great things, as long as you're willing to look at it for what it is.
And get over the resistance, right?
And shoulder the personal responsibility.
There you go.
That is, I think, the kind of the foundation of where I started. And from that, my mind was all over the place. I couldn't gather my thoughts. I just had
all this energy, like, where do I put it?
Huge life change. And I just knew I needed help. And universally, some of the most unbelievable things started to happen. And I found a way to calm my mind, to kind of see what was going on. And I introduced some new modalities. I brought people into my life, therapists, life coaches, that really were able to introduce me to interesting techniques that helped me. But at the same time, while they're helping, I also noticed they had some side effects or didn't quite feel right. But then what I noticed is, as I would mix some other things in to sort of handle or eliminate the side effects, I would be more comforted. And then I realized that on my own, I was able to reach or attain successes that I wasn't with someone else. And it was through another modality that I introduced, and realizing that, wait, this can do this, and then this can do this. And in the end, after 8 months of intense study and really focusing
Introspection, right?
The introspection was huge. And I was fortunate enough, I was running a marketing company that I was able to take the time for me. And in doing that, I was able to create something so amazing that at the end of that time frame, I was waking up happier than I'd ever been, and realizing what I had created. I started to talk to other people about it, and everyone who was in my life was like, what did you do? Where have you been? Who is this new Tyler? And it felt amazing. And
had some depth to it.
It had so much depth. And from there, some people would come to me and they'd be like, well, whatever you're doing, help me here, help me there.
And you're like, I'm so excited. Let me show you what I did.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And through that period, even in the initial 8 months, as I started to change and people noticed it, I would send them to, certain people that I was seeing, or, therapists or life coaches.
Right.
And they would come back to me and say, they help, but this and this. And I would start getting their input also.
Right. Putting together the dots.
The dots started connecting like a beautiful jigsaw puzzle. And, in the end, I started, well, here, I might be able to help you. And let me show you what I've learned. And let me show you how I'm doing it. And just time and time again, a friend would come and I'd be able to help them, or someone would be introduced into my life, and I was able to show them the way, show them what I was doing, and they would just come back like, wow, this is amazing.
So you planted this seed, like you were having your awakening. How long ago was this?
It's been just about 2 years now.
So talk about, because as soon as the awakening kind of happens, I can vouch for this in my own existence.
Right.
Everything happens so quickly. It's like, you're in the right place at the right time. Like, things just start, like you said, the puzzle pieces start pulling together.
Falling into place.
When you get out of your own way, release that resistance, and all this stuff goes on. So tell us who Tyler was 2 years ago.
Well, about 2.5 years ago, I will say that Tyler was a pretty miserable person. Now,
what were you doing? Corporate life? What was going on?
It wasn't corporate life. I had my own company. I was running my own thing. I was unhappily in a relationship. I'm so far removed from there. I have to remember what it was
exactly,
like.
because you're so living in the moment now, and in such
it was just everything.
Momentum forward.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And everything that I was doing was unhappiness, and whatever I would do, it was just like, this is so miserable. This isn't me. I don't feel right. This doesn't have a good feeling.
But just going through the motions, the mundane motions of everyday.
I had anxieties. I had anger issues. I was drinking too much. Now it's all starting to flood back, right? Like, I really remember drinking too much. I think the anxieties were just
It's okay.
out
I'm
of
just
hand.
keeping it personal.
Absolutely.
With it,
and I have no problem opening up to that, because it's who I was, and I own that.
Right.
And I also see, even thinking about it, I just see such a tremendous difference.
Yeah.
Like, I would get so, even the drinking, I would get so drunk, I'd go in the black. I didn't even know who I was, and maybe make mistakes or do bad things. I just
you didn't recognize that guy even when you were living that guy.
Right. And as that guy, I was just miserable. And even the relationship that I ended, it was a 20-year relationship. When I ended it, I knew it needed to be over. I knew it was from a bad place at that time. But looking back at it, I see so much of it that was my fault, my undoing, and my unhappiness within me. And so again, just
and
going
kind
back
of
to that.
it takes two, right? So it kind of
course.
filtering that together where we're like, oh shoot, we weren't bringing out the best selves in each other.
Yeah,
You know?
it does take two, but you also have to realize, I think more than anything, I had to realize what my part in that
Your
was.
personal accountability.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I can't change anything about who I was in a relationship with, and maybe they don't even need to change.
Mm-hmm.
All I know is I can change who I was or
Awesome.
who I am. So
Awesome.
that was
so
pretty
so that was Tyler then. This is Tyler now.
Right.
So EC2, the seed was planted like 2 years ago when you started gathering all these modalities, and then you're like, okay, well, this can take us so far this way, and this can take us so far that way.
Yeah.
So, and maybe 15 of those, whatever people try.
Right.
So this got your marketing engineering brain going, like
Right.
putting all those together. And
Yes, and probably overdone to an extent. I probably, looking back, have overthought everything, and
we tend to do those things to
know,
ourselves,
and
you
it's-
know.
Well,
Yeah.
the worst part of it is, I have no education, no formal education in counseling, therapy, psychology, anything like that.
But when we get excited about a topic, it's like, feed
Right.
me.
I had finally, after that 8-month period, when I just woke up happier than I'd ever been, and had this amazing universal type experience, it just woke me up, and I was like, holy cow. And this is how I did it, and this is what I did, and this is how it all came to be. It was at that point where I was like, there was no holding me back.
Right.
It became my instant passion. And then when I started working with other people, friends and family at first, obviously,
course,
right?
got to.
And, just random people the universe might send my way.
Yeah.
And I started seeing their positivity and the effects it had on them. And then I was just like, holy cow. Like, holy cow, here it comes.
Yeah.
Like, I have to keep doing this. And I think somewhere in there, what happens is education takes you so far. And it's so cookie cutter. And it is what this obviously great nation's made of, and so many people are so well educated, and I work with professionals that have amazing educations and they know way more than I do, but
Academically.
But my personal experience and really being able to jump into some of those same educated philosophies, right, and fix them and give them the tweaks that they needed in order to take away the dry feeling or the uncomfort or the discomfort, that's where you can't replace that with education.
Absolutely. Because layer upon layer of experience just keeps adding to your toolbox.
Right. Right.
That's remarkable.
And then starting to work with people and getting honest feedback from them to say, okay, well, this and maybe this, and then we did this, and and seeing that.
And having the enthusiasm, because people, like we talked about before, lose it.
It was definitely not a job for me. It wasn't a grind, 9 to 5. I have to see the next person. I was excited to. And then,
kind of thirsty for it.
Right. And I put a little bit of a twist on it that I haven't really seen too many places. I don't know if it even exists. Maybe it does. I don't know. But I started doing trail coaching.
Cool.
I love to hike, love to get out in the outdoors. And I started realizing how much, hitting Red Rock or Mount Charleston can allow someone to open up. And then you just see a whole new person. And then all of a sudden you're learning so much more about them than they would ever open up in a chair in an office, in a closed up.
Absolutely. Something tangible for them to focus on to kind of not make it the focus be on their emotions or their well-being. Because people put up the walls and the bricks and everything to not do that. So yeah, definitely nature connecting in helps out a lot.
Well, it's funny you say that. You start talking about walls and bricks and everything, and getting out in the great outdoors, it did break those down. And as soon as you start talking about emotion with anyone, everyone's like, whoa, those are my emotions here.
I've been living in this place for a while now. Don't change it.
Yeah, these emotions are who I am. Don't,
Right.
And it's, I just want to, bringing them out on the trails or having a client be able to open up and put those guards down.
Right.
To allow the healing that they need to remove or release, have them remove or release an anxiety or an anger issue that they're having. It's amazing. And I just want to be able to go up to everyone and say, no, really, it just helps. I was like, whoa, what? You know?
Yeah, exactly.
And hence the reason why it's 2 years later and this is the first public forum. Because
Awesome.
how do you handle someone else's emotions? And people don't want you to handle them. Right. And so that's why I've turned EC2 into more of like a self-help. One of the therapists I was working with when I first went to him.
But a concept. So go ahead.
That concept came from a therapist saying, well, you did what? And I was explaining to him, I did this on my own because I had this feeling, and so it wasn't a good one, and I wanted to move on with my day, so this is what I did. And he goes, you did that on your own? And I'm like, well, yeah. And having a guy who, I mean, I'm a high school jock. I graduated from college, but I carried a 2.0. I'm not going to toot my horn. I'm not the most intelligent guy, but to be able to do that on my own means, well, if I did it on my own and he's surprised, why can't anyone else? And everybody reacted to that in a way of, yeah, why can't I? It came from a therapist who in any way needs to, I don't know, make money off of you sitting in his chair to, why don't I teach you this and you can do it on your own moving forward. And sure, I'll help you and I'll introduce some things to you. Amazing stuff that I know works because I've seen it work with others and within me. And then you can take it and make it your own. So if there are walls or guards that you have around those emotions, you can deal with them. And that's why I called it emotion communication coaching, because I'm coaching you how to do it. And then you can take it and make it your own. And there's no better feeling than hearing back from someone and saying, Tyler, you know how you introduced me to this? Well, I did this with it, and this is the amazing result. Like sometimes I sit on the phone and just like, are you serious?
Yeah.
Like I'm that therapist now that says, no, you can't do that. You know, obviously I don't say that. I just say,
you're like, yes,
wow,
he did it on his
that's
own.
unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're like,
with a little bit of coaching, just a little tweak in perspective.
Absolutely.
So we're talking to Tyler Perkins from EC2, the creator of EC2. Emotion communication coaching. I'll get it.
It's a tough one. That's why we just say EC2.
Yeah, I know.
You know?
So when we come back from hearing from our sponsors, he's going to break down what that is so my brain can wrap around all of that. He has like a perfect breakdown of what that means, and we'll be right back at Luminosity Wellness Center at the Health and Wellness Hour. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mike McAuliffe.
And I'm Perry Haichu.
We're the hosts of the Nevada Cannabis News Hour.
Join us on WWDBTV.com.
Put her hand in mine and said she loved me so very long ago.
Hey, how's it going? You can just throw your name up on the list and we'll get right to you. Yeah, thanks, dude. Thanks for coming in. Let me just clean this spot up and then we'll get right to you. You can hop on up if you're ready. Welcome to the shop. You need a shave too, though, right?
I don't know if I would accept a shave from somebody who's unshaven.
I look like a child when I have a clean-shaven face.
Well, I wouldn't want a child cutting my hair. And I'd also need to know that the blades have been sanitized thoroughly.
I can guarantee you that the barbicide is 100% authentic, and these are sanitized tools I'm using.
Well, what is the...
Have you ever gotten a straight razor shave?
Is there any other kind? This stuff smells like Irish Spring.
Brings me back to childhood.
Did you grow up in a chemical plant? Hurry up.
Yeah, well, you know. Now you look like $1 million.
Well, that's your job. I'll be sure and mention your facility during my show tonight.
Hello, welcome back to the Health and Wellness Hour. My name is Abra McGrath, and today we are speaking with Tyler Perkins, the creator of EC2. EC2 is an emotional communication coaching. Dang, botched it again, didn't I? EC2.
We keep trying.
Okay.
EC2, that's why we keep it that simple, right?
Right. What I wanted to hone in on this conversation is that the big thing nowadays is emotional intelligence. And we're talking about the disconnect between what we learned academically and what we feel in our hearts and what we need to listen to intuitively. Last week we talked about intuitively listening to our bodies. We have a few more like doctors coming in next week talking about the same thing, and it's like we all have that little Jiminy Cricket, I call it, inside, that little subconscious that tells us and reminds us and has, you know, little cues and everything. And so Tyler really hones in on helping us re-listen.
Yeah, I think the Jiminy Cricket thing is amazing, because I think you should look at your emotions as your Jiminy Cricket, and I think they can really be considered your best friend. And I know sometimes that's hard to think about because you put fear or anger or anxiety in that classification of that's a bad thing. How can that be my best friend? But it obviously it plays a role, right? Look at, I don't know, just off the cuff thinking fear. I mean, it keeps you from opening that door where the boogeyman's going to be behind, right?
The unknown, right?
Yeah, that unknown.
We always have to know, you know, have that instant gratification of knowing.
You read so many places, you know, where does fear really come from back in the days when there was a saber-toothed tiger behind the door that's going to eat you, you know?
So,
yeah, that instinctual fear. But really, a lot of times what I've found, and you look at like anxiety, it's trying to tell you there's something bad in there. And when I say in there, within you. And, you know, whatever that is, you look at emotions, and if you really want to go deep or theoretic or even scientific, really, it's been proven emotions can create disease in some way.
Dis-ease, right?
Yeah, the dis-ease. Yeah, look at it that way. I think that came straight from The Secret. I think I remember that guy talking about it, you know, let the doctors take care of the disease and you take care of yourself. But that instinctual anxiety or fear or anger that comes out sometimes is created. I say sometimes, but I like to say all the time.
Right.
And it was created through something that happened to you in your life, and
that
really,
we didn't know how what the side effects were going to be.
Absolutely.
So we're reconnecting to that.
Yeah.
To that emotional connection.
Yeah, and that emotional connection is creating anxiety, which sometimes can be paralyzing, or a depression that, you know, can halter your life in a way that affects you so negatively that there's some type of a
paralyzation that goes on.
Yeah, and that outcome obviously is not anything anyone would really want. But what we can do is we can communicate with that emotion. So anxiety, consider it emotion, or anger, consider it emotion. And in communicating with it, we can actually release the bad part of it and keep what would be considered the memory or the wisdom that comes from it, right?
Wisdom, I like that.
Yeah,
it could be a muscle memory kind of thing.
You are who you are through your experiences, right?
Right.
And so those experiences created a memory, right? And your subconscious remembers that forever, and it also created an emotion. And so what we try and do is we communicate with that emotion, and it brings us back to that memory, and then we can always keep what is the wisdom or the learning factor
right.
Of that experience, but maybe remove the pain and remove the anxiety.
And you talked about it like a thorn.
Yeah.
Like taking out your thorn.
You know, when the experience happened, what happened was a thorn was basically placed into your skin, right? And then as you live your life, when it is accidentally touched or poked in any way, we all remember, right, as a kid, you'd get that thorn and then you'd be like, no, don't touch it, just don't touch it. And, you know, even your dad would come to you or your mom and say, just let me pull it out. It'll hurt for a second, but I promise it won't anymore. Well, I definitely love that analogy for emotion because it's so true. We talked about earlier how you build those walls up around your emotions, right? So the experience happened, an emotion is attached to it, and that is what hurts, right? So the thorn's placed. Now we're going to build that wall all around it and say, don't touch it. And we talked about people not allowing me to show them or help them.
Right.
And it's because that wall's built so big, or the steel safe is so thick.
Right.
You can't get into it, or they don't want you to.
But when you're busting through those layers, getting through the other side, exposing the thorn, you're visually kind of going through it. You use a lot of visualization techniques, like a meditative experience with your clients.
So
give the listeners like an idea of like what a session. I had one with you yesterday, which was fabulous. It was a wonderful visualization technique. We're visual creatures, especially this day and age. Picture's worth 1,000 words.
And you have a picture of every moment of your life in your mind. Your subconscious carries a lithograph, basically, of what your life has been. And it's just a matter of being able to get to it. And, my logo is when life does not equal you. And the does not equal is basically a straight... what's the word I'm looking for? Analogy, or it basically has the meaning behind it, which is calm the mind is the line that strikes through.
So our producer will pop this up on the screen too.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
we'll
So
have him.
the
Describe.
right. So the line that runs through is
so we're talking about an unequal sign.
Yep, an unequal sign, and the line that runs through it is
two lines and
basically calming the mind. So
calming the mind.
allowing your mind to get in touch with the memories that are serving that emotion, right? And then it's communicating with the emotion is the second line, and then that third line is nourishing the being. And basically what's happening there is, as we were kind of talking a little bit about that, it's just getting in touch with that moment. And our memories are most easily touched through the feelings and the emotions, right? But sometimes those emotions aren't good. And so here's where we break down those walls. We get to them through a calm mind, right? And then we communicate with them. So start to open them up. You mentioned layers. I'm not a big peeling the onion guy, but you get to the thorn. And it's at that point where we pull the thorn out and we put a little Neosporin and a Band-Aid over it. Is basically the nourishing of the soul or the being.
Here we do frankincense oils, sorry.
There you go. Whatever you use for healing, we'll use that, right? Because this is for you, and it's made just for your comfort. And it's custom tailored to what makes you feel good. And in the end, what happens is when we pull that thorn, it tends to eliminate that anxiety, take away that anger.
Right.
And then all of a sudden people are living their lives as their true self, who has the wisdom of the moment of what happened in that learning experience, but they don't have the anger. They don't have the anxiety.
It's a release.
It's a total release.
So,
and the thing that you mentioned was visualization. And what you're basically doing is you're seeing the moment. When you talked about you yesterday, and we'll just use that as an example.
Sure.
You saw your happy moment as a child, right? And it felt so good, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
because we tend to layer upon the muck on our happy moments, which kind of clouds some of our happy moments, So pulling out those, it was very powerful. Yeah. Absolutely.
And so it feels good too. And and it brings out the happiness, and it brings in love and understanding for whatever that moment was.
Well, Esther Hicks, she always is talking about reaching for that better feeling.
Yeah.
So we're educating people on emotional intelligence. Do you feel like your demographics thus far have been like what age group and what kind of?
I tend to see. Like that 35 to 45 range, just because I think that's when people really start to, just my personal experience, when I was 35, I was the first time that I felt anxiety. I didn't even know what it was.
Right,
and,
because you hadn't tapped in and tuned on to that emotional place yet.
Whatever happened.
Except the anger part or whatever.
Yeah. And whatever had happened, that when that thorn was placed, that thorn wasn't poked again until I was 35. And then when it was poked, I was like, holy cow, what is this feeling? Like, what? As I'm breathing funny, I'm like, what is this emotional mess? And I had to ask someone, I'm like, what's going on? What am I feeling right now? And they're like, maybe anxiety. And I'm like, well, whatever it is, it's got to go away.
Right.
And then I ended up living with that anxiety for years. And it wasn't until I started this process where I started to get in touch with it. And it was such a deep-seated anxiety. When I first started working with other therapists, it was untouched. I couldn't get it. And like I felt like okay, I feel great now, and then all of a sudden it come back again, and,
right,
and it get worse. And
this is not to take away from your experience, but this is happening to so many people, and younger and younger and younger, and it's being band-aid with big pharma. And unfortunately,
it is.
Instead of people tapping in, tuning on, and going, hey, where's this coming from, and how can I let it go?
And I find that even though people are able to tap into it and find out more about it, that traditional therapies, and I don't even want to say I'm untraditional, but therapies tend to just see it and recognize it and maybe give them a book to read about it. But what EC2 does is it's an action-based therapy where they can actually go and pull that thorn out rather than continually touch it or put, like you said, some type of drug over it or, kind of try and conceal it.
Right, mask it.
Yeah, and people, what they tend to do, and I know that I did for a while, is I kept building the walls bigger, like get this away, make it go away.
Well, and that's how your logo looks. When I first looked at it, it was a little confusing to me, but then I looked deeper at it. And now that you explained it even further, it means so much more. But you had like, life doesn't equal you. Right? And so that's kind of where people are at a lot of places where they can recognize life isn't equaling me.
This is
now.
Not who I am.
I'm sick of being sick. I'm sick of working for people that don't want to pay for my talent. Like all these different things, preaching to the choir. Right?
No, I appreciate your word. Like
right?
I think you've explained it more eloquently than I did, because that's exactly.
Then you'll forgive my botch.
Yeah, right. All the botches. It's so funny. There's so much that goes into it and so much thought, and I've, self-admittedly earlier, I've overthought it all. But all I knew was life was not my life wasn't who I was. It was unacceptable, and I knew there was better for me.
Oh yeah.
And so that's what I just want to tell
And
everyone.
you're a father too. You're a father, and you knew you weren't being your best self, and that's one thing that definitely generated my change in my own being, is going, what kind of woman am I raising in my daughter? If I can't be that living example, then how the heck, can I expect her? I felt so hypocritical.
Yeah.
And so I think, peeling off the onion and then adding a better version of that onion, all the other layers, was like a really, really, it's such a fun experience too. Like when you start really getting in the groove of it, you're like, oh my gosh, like I do have so much to offer. I do have this confidence.
Right.
So today we're speaking with Tyler Perkins from EC2, and EC2 is here to help you reconnect with your emotional intelligence and just to tap in and tune in to a better self.
Yeah. Definitely, the emotional intelligence is funny. I didn't even realize it was a term until way after. Actually, I kind of stayed away from that study because I wanted to make sure that there was no other real influence.
Cool, because it's like you're in the universal consciousness. You're like tapping in, man. Like seriously.
No, and that was good.
it.
But I do appreciate that term though, emotional intelligence, because that's what it comes back to, is just recognizing that something's just not right. And then understanding, and even moving forward, recognizing what your emotions are, right? And what they're trying to tell you, what your best friend essentially is trying to say to you. Everyone had that best friend who was like, I don't think you should date that guy.
Yeah.
I think you should stay away from, and that's what your emotions are essentially. Yeah. And, through so much experience and where I ended up, and being able to finally get, after traditional therapies kind of, I don't want to say failed me, because they were all a great part of it, but finding the way to connect them so that I could find the root of that thorn.
Well,
right?
and speak the language of your peers, because you started with your family and now you're reaching out into bigger and bigger circles. And this Luminosity Wellness Center, Tyler has just become an affiliate here in North Las Vegas off Tenaya and Smoke Ranch. And we're brought to you today by WWDB TV, and we'll be right back from a message from our sponsors. So we'll be speaking with Tyler a little bit more.
Excellent.
Crazy Terry here with your car care tip of the day. So it's not a bad idea every now and then to check your battery. If you don't know how to do it, have somebody check it for you. Just a visual inspection can tell you a lot about your battery. So as we can see here, this battery's got a hold down. It's nice and tight. The cables are on. They don't look bad. We've got a cover. We don't see any corrosion. Everything's kind of tight, looking good. A little bit of dirt, that's normal, but nothing's leaking, no real cause for alarm here. So that's a good sign. Doesn't mean it's good, but at least visually we know that it's intact. Okay, so we're looking at a battery here that shows signs of corrosion. We want to test that battery to make sure it's good. Usually when they're getting like this, there's going to be a problem, leaking some acid at the top. We ran the test and we find out it has 396 cold cranking amps, but the battery requires 650. So it's just not enough. The battery is going to go soon. Better to know now than later. Okay, so the benefits of checking the cable is because this cable's rotted out. What we'll find is this is the problem, not the battery. So it'll save you from buying a battery, still having the no start, only to find out that it's a cable. This type of corrosion is common in diesels. Okay, so we're getting ready to jump the car, but we have to have some battery cables. And we have to check those too before we hook them up to the battery. So here we have our standard set of battery cables. We just look them over, see if the ends are frayed, if everything's connected all right. Everything looks good here. Wouldn't hurt to check the rest of the cable just to make sure the dog didn't get it and chew it up. We have red and black. Red's positive, black's negative. You always want to hook the positive up first and then the negative, and I'll show you how that's done right now. Keep these off to the side so they're not touching each other. Hook up your positive. You can find that right here by the plus sign, the negative sign. Plus is positive, red. Make sure that's securely hooked up. Keeping these away from each other, hook up your negative cable. Just got to fight it on there, figure out a way to get it. Wiggle it a little bit so it ensures a good connection. Now you're transferring voltage. If I hit these two together, we're going to spark. Kind of want to avoid that. Won't kill you. Kind of fun. A lot of people think if they can turn the headlights on, the battery's fine. That's not always the case. It takes very little amperage to turn a light on, but it takes a lot of amperage to start the starter. I recommend checking the charging system every oil change. At Sun Valley Automotive, there's never a charge for that. This is Crazy Terry with your car care tip of the day.
Hello, welcome back to the Health and Wellness Hour with Abram McGrath and Tyler Perkins from EC2. We're here at Luminosity Wellness Center in the Northwest Valley of Las Vegas, Nevada. And we're here today because there's a big wave of wellness going across this valley and the nation. People are ready to take their health back in their own hands, tired of listening to people that don't know as well as they do. So Tyler today is the creator of EC2, which helps people reconnect with themselves. So Tyler, tell us a little bit more about what's to come now that you're affiliate with us.
Yeah, just joined Luminosity as an affiliate. Extremely excited about that. EC2, Emotion Communication Coaching, is the protocol that I was able to develop and began working with people. And from that, I started my own company called Your Ground Zero, is what I called it, and utilizing EC2.
And that's your website, right?
That's my website, yourgroundzero.com. And my other contact info real quick, Tyler Perkins. I'm on Instagram as Vegas Home Dad. I was a stay-at-home dad for a while. I have three little girls, ranging from 8 to 12.
Give them a shout out real quick.
Yeah, Catherine, Liv, Gray. I get all choked up when
that's so great.
That's very cool.
Feel that feeling, man.
Yeah, right. It is an extremely exciting feeling, and it's so funny, talking about that and what Your Ground Zero is and what it represents is my logo is when life does not equal you, and it's just when things just aren't quite right, and you want them to be right. And EC2 was able to give me so many answers. And then when I started working with other people, it gave them answers and allowed them to start their journey in such an amazing way.
So tell us about one. Tell us about one of your star pupils.
Wow.
I know it's
anxiety is a real big one because I think it's almost debilitating when you have to deal with that.
Yeah.
And when it creeps up on you and you never felt it before and it gets worse and worse and worse. And I've worked with a couple of people, been able to relieve or release that anxiety, something you don't have to experience anymore. Yours truly included. I went through it myself and was able to release that anxiety. I don't don't live with it anymore, and it's an amazing feeling. Through EC2, there's someone else. She had gone to multiple therapists. I think she told me she'd been to like 5 different psychologists, and still live with this anxiety. And we were able to get to that thorn that we talked about earlier and pull it out. And
through visualization techniques,
through the EC2 technique of calming the mind, nourishing the being, and communicating with those emotions.
So it's like a personal guide.
It is a personal guide, and it's a tool that you take with you moving forward. If you experience that again, you know how to handle it and how to communicate with it,
and prepare yourself too. Like, oh, I feel this maybe coming up again.
Right.
So what can I do?
And there's so many things, from past life experiences to car accidents that have changed the way you look. I had a client that couldn't drive in the rain because she had gotten in an accident. It was a very rainy night, a real bad accident. Someone was killed in it, and it affected her to the point where she literally just locked up when it started to rain.
Wow.
And to be able to release that, to be able to move forward with your life without that handicap, if you will, is just amazing. And now she's able to drive in the rain and see it for what it is and understand it, you know. And
amazing.
And that's just a small thing. There was another person with another car accident, same thing. It had changed her life. She was an outdoors, go, and then the car accident kind of turned her into that little bit of a hermit. And it just goes on. And I mean, the car accidents are one thing, but then relationships and the marriages and being able to see what your role is in it. You know, everyone gets mad at the other one because they're doing this, they're doing this.
Right.
And then, you start to introduce them. Well, then they see
mirror.
it. Yeah, and they open up their eyes. And the most effective that I can think of right off the bat is right when we finished the therapy at the end, she looked at me, she goes, I just want to call him and say I'm sorry. And just like this most sincere faith, you know, and no matter what happens,
my role, woo.
And no matter what happens moving forward, she knew that it would change her with her next relationship.
Yeah.
And she knew that it improved her life in that way.
Yeah,
so,
and she can ripple out happiness instead of pain.
Absolutely.
Right. So
Absolutely.
tell us real quick, 30 seconds.
Okay.
What's your vision here, and what you want to do? Classes? You want? What are you up
classes. I'm looking for other life changers that I can introduce EC2. They can use it, put it in their toolbox moving forward. Extremely excited about that. And then obviously anyone who feels debilitated by any type of emotion, any anger, anxiety, depression.
So launching
you name
pad. What are you trying to manifest right now? Your clientele that you want to bring to you for you to help them in a reciprocal way, because this also helps you.
Of course.
So like
constant learning.
So what do we do? What are we attracting right now? People that are ready to launch. You said other light changers or other
other life changers, other therapists that need another tool that's action based to be able to help those types of scenarios that we've talked about this whole hour.
Awesome.
And then the website is in development. Started like a choose your own adventure, so they can go online and some people are afraid, like they build those walls, those emotions. So what they want to do is maybe not work with someone or share that with them, but they can kind of go on their own choose your own adventure on the website, and then there's, if this is happening, then go here and this, and then they'll
choose your own adventure.
And they'll be taught through video, and that's at yourgroundzero.com. You start getting all excited about that type of stuff, right? You're like
reeling you back in.
Yeah, and it's great like that. And or just one-on-ones. I do Skype, WhatsApp. I do texting. Some people just need a little
whatever communication forum they're used to, and then when they get more comfortable and more trusting, then you can help them.
The one-on-ones, the trail coaching. There's just, it's endless. It really is, and
right on.
Yeah, that's why we love the modern day, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, Tyler, for joining me today on the Health and Wellness Hour.
You bet.
And we look forward to watching you grow here.
Yeah,
and,
excited.
It's just really amazing, and thanks for joining the team.
Well, thank you, Abra.
You're welcome.
Just complete gratitude to everyone out here and yourself. You spent so much time, learned so much, and now you even know how to say emotion communication coaching.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's
I'll
great.
probably just do EC2, so.
Much easier. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thanks for tuning in with us today, and we'll see you next time.